In an ever-evolving digital landscape, for your business to thrive, you must adapt or die. Welcome to Marketing in the Age of AI, the podcast helping you harness the power of AI and marketing tools to revitalize and grow your business. And now here's your host, marketing expert and author of Authentic Marketing in the Age of AI, Emanuel Rose.
Thanks for joining me today. We are going to dig into one of the core fundamentals of marketing, which is the brain, psychology, and neuroprogramming. And my guest today is Sam Pepin, a visionary entrepreneur and CEO of CoreCentrica, where he is transforming audience engagement through neuromarketing. With a proven track record in biz dev and marketing for Fortune 500 companies, Sam's innovative approach blends neuroscience with cutting-edge sales strategies. Sam, welcome to the show, and thanks for spending some time with me today.
Thank you so much for having me, Emanuel.
Well, we hear a lot of words and a lot of buzzwords, but can you explain a little bit about the concept of neuromarketing and how you have focused on this?
Yes, absolutely. So in my first venture, when I was actually not even a man, actually, I was 17 years old when I began all of that. And we were focusing on big data. So we basically created an algorithm to help SMEs get matched with the agency that would fit their needs. And what I found is that I was able to scale that, was able to also basically sell my shares, which really helped me in early adulthoods. But what I found, Emmanuel, is that the whole market was shifting to data. AI, obviously, LLMs, and so on. There's nothing wrong with that. You need data to make conscious marketing decisions. But I had the pleasure to get introduced to a wonderful man called J.W. Wilson, who has an institute called the Learning Code Institute. And we sat down after a speaking engagement of mine in Denver. He said, Sam, I've been working on a science for 40 years. He calls it the Code 24. And the objective is to understand how people basically make decisions, the quantum leap into human behaviors. And within that research, he told me, I'd love if we can embed that to a business development model, to a marketing model, to help company basically succeed and increase conversion and engagement, most importantly. And I said, all right, let me think about that. And therefore, I was seeing that in a world where everything is shifting to blank data, garbage in, garbage out, which again, has its place, if you don't humanize it, not only everybody tells the exact same, which is a big problem. And I'm sure that you see this yourself, Emanuel, where there is just this of all people basically discussing the same things or very similar things in a way that it lost its novelty. And what we know in marketing, because our job as marketers, all right, is to make sure that the other person takes interest in what we have. That's all marketing is. Marketing is, you don't know about us. My goal is to feed you the information that is necessary for you to get an interest into what we have. The rest is sales, actually. That's the whole other department. But for us, when I was thinking about this, we really wanted to come up with something innovative, use the Code 24, which has been a vetted science, as a checklist to make sure that all the campaigns that we do for ourselves and our clients basically is embedded within what we call the meaning network. And I can explain that further if you'd like. But those in a nutshell, perhaps is the foundations of what we call meaningful marketing. It's blending big data with neuroscience.
Yeah, beautiful. What are some of the core principles of the way that people make decisions from your perspective in neuromarketing?
Yeah, good, fantastic question. So within that meaning network, coming back to it, all decisions are driven by meaning. So the fact that you work out in the morning, the fact that we have this great podcast to share with the world, all of that basically is our meaning basically network that pushes us to do such thing. Now, what we know is that obviously different people not only learn differently, but because they learn differently, they make decisions on a different basically wavelength. So we have this great research called the 11 biological learning, basically methodologies. There's people that are visual learners, there's people that are kinetic learners, and so on. And what we've been able to accomplish really with the incredible help of a very extensive team is understanding that at the core of all human decisions is driven by meaning. And therefore, if I can understand what moves you, my ability to, again, have you take interest in what I have, and therefore whatever call to action might be by my product, sign up to my course, will join my webinar, join me on my podcast, whatever that is, will be increased by actually 100 times from what we were able to see. Now, some of the core lessons there, which is a great question, is first things first, and that's a thing that anybody can get value from, is in a world where there's so many distractions, you want to be a value giver before being a value seeker. And
Right.
there's a big difference between the two of those. We've been seeing a lot of brands now, either founders led or even with huge marketing funds, that sort of come at it with this sort of sense that there's this. It's always about me, right? And human beings, what we know, Emmanuel, and you know this, you spend decades now in this world, is that what is there for me is huge. If I don't understand what is there for me, my likelihood of us making a business transaction is zero. That's it.
Yep.
Not
Right.
one, zero. And therefore, what we want to do from a fundamental level is understand our target audience so much, even more than them, and they might not just realize it yet, to be able to move the needles on what we know is necessary to angle, to frame the conversation. Marketing is a lot of framing conversations to make sure that you understand that your best bet to solve your problem in this case is something that I sell in my shop, and therefore we should enter that business relationship. So, in a nutshell, and in a non-scientific perhaps perspective, that's a lot of what goes into it.
I love it. So, well, I'm hearing a couple of things. One is that we have to match up learning styles and make sure that our message is getting to the individual. And then I guess we learned in psychology, in the a long time ago, was that there were 4 or 5 learning styles, but it sounds like there might be more now from what you've
Certainly more. There's
discovered.
certainly more.
Right.
Yes. One big one that emerged over the last few years, decades, is the social emotional profile, which is a big one. And the social emotional profiles typically think about what I call human oriented service providers. So psychologists typically are very social emotional, obviously, and what we've been seeing, and even people in basically others areas of life, caregiver, nurses, and so on. Those are typically social emotional profiles. We've been seeing an emergence of our understanding of emotional intelligence a lot. I'd say since the 90s, which is very interesting because there's a bunch of research. I don't know if you saw it from, I think it was um, Cambridge, if I'm not mistaken, that had this great study about the fact that emotional intelligence might just be even more important than IQ in this day and age. And we certainly agree with that. I can tell you that there's plenty of people with less IQ than you and I that succeeds way more in this marketplace. That's for sure. But yes, there's 11 biological profiles. I'm more than happy to share the research with all your audience, basically when it's convenient. But we have the typical ones, right? Auditive, visuals, social emotional, like I said, is a big profile. Kinetic is another big one. And then you have some that are a bit more nuanced. But most human beings, actually all human beings, are definitely a combination. So just like anything in life,
Sure.
you're not 100% visuals and then you cannot learn any other way. That just doesn't work like that. But we do see that with aligning ourselves with the way the natural learns, obviously, not only do we retain more of the information we want them to retain, but afterwards we're able to lead them in where ultimately we want them to be led.
Yeah, that's fascinating. All right, so we got the learning style, and then we've got this Cialdini concept, right, which is the giving
Yes.
first, and that creates an obligation, even if we're not aware of the obligation.
Yes. It's somewhat of a
And
constructed,
so,
yeah, a sort of a constructed reciprocal pattern. Sure.
right, yeah, it was kind of like Twitter in the old days, what we called it Twitter. If you followed somebody, it was their reciprocity to follow you back, and that's how we built the network at the beginning.
Cool.
So yeah, what are some other of these principles that we should be paying attention to?
One of the big things I want to come back to novelty, because I had these great conversations. I have my own show, as you know, Emmanuel, and we had this
Yeah, what's the name of that show?
meaningful podcast. If your audience wants to
All
check it
right,
out, and
absolutely.
the so it's a very interesting. Perhaps the novelty is something that would unfortunately slowly but surely eroding, but that can actually be to your advantage if you understand it, and that's always. In Japanese, chaos and opportunities actually is the same word. So I always say this because
Yeah,
there's always two sides to that medal. And things don't go as well as you might think it do, but it really go as bad as you think they do also. So it's always the way it works. But when you're thinking about novelty, and I want to come back to it because I think it's, to me, that's the core essence that we're currently completely demolishing in marketing, which I don't think is a good thing, is that when you're thinking about technology is a tool. All right. So when you take a look at how the world has sort of evolved, if you want, you had a big bit, basically a one. When you take a look at revolutionaries and time periods, we had obviously the industrial revolutions, which basically was set to create things that are stronger than the human body. All right. We definitely did that very
Right.
successfully, and which is beautiful. But then in the 2000s, a bit before that, but let's just stick to 2000 so it's easier for our audience to understand. We entered the informational age. And then people were set to build things that are stronger than the human mind, which is what AI is, which is what quantum computing will be,
Sure.
which you want to be
Yep.
careful with that. That's another conversation. But the the from that perspective, what I see way too many people make the mistake of is they will ask the machine how to be authentic, which is very which is quite which is quite interesting, all right, because it's the exact opposite of
Yeah.
what authenticity means, obviously.
Absolutely.
So we've
Yep.
been seeing
Yep.
now a complete delusion, in my opinion, of what actually matters for not only for your brand but for your own mental sanity. AI is a tool, and therefore you are the source. And I'm not making a religious point here. You might think it comes from God, and might think it doesn't. But at the end of the day, you are the source, perhaps, of those actions as you have free will. And that's another big debate. But anyways, and the let's say you do, hypothetically, you have free will, and therefore you're the source of basically who you are, what you want to achieve, and so on. Then using AI to streamline some of those objectives and help you get there more effectively is a fantastic thing, and we should all do it because it does increase your productivity. What I don't want you to do, and take it from me, take it from Manuel, because we'll definitely agree with this point. If the machine is the one telling you who you are and what you should do at all time, where you should be, you are missing the boat, my friend. And you will
That's right.
continue to miss the boat, all right, until you understand that you are the source. You are where insights and everything begins. And that's the first thing. Coming back to that novelty term, which I think is the code 14 on our code 24, which again the checklist could be provided to everybody that wants it. Um, is understanding that what stick with us are things in which, but what marks us are things in which are novel. All right. So, for example, let's say right now in this podcast, all right, I have a window to my left. There's a bird that just flies in. All right.
Right.
Whatever what I say, basically, how interesting or not interesting it is to you, I promise you, though, that if I ask you at the very end, hey, what's one thing you remember about this podcast? You'll say, oh, there was this bird flying in. Why? Because it's novel. You didn't expect that. And that's very important
Right.
because marketing, again, is the art of gaining interest. And from interest, basically, begins our understanding of another code, which I want to touch on very quickly, which is cognitive overload. What we know is that our mind, when we are all repeating the exact same things in this very robotic way, and you should do this and you should post on social media and blah blah blah, there's nothing wrong with that advice, but the way you give it is very important, because if 1,000 of your competitors say the exact same thing at the exact same time, guess what? You're invisible. You're invisible.
Yep.
It doesn't matter if you're better than them on the implementations. You say the exact same thing to the exact same people, and therefore you want to, one, understand what novelty is. I would definitely recommend you read read books on psychology to understand that. We have, the cracking the cells, cracking the learning code, pardon me, which is a great book by H.W. Wilson. Great place to start for sure. And
Hmm.
from that perspective, you want to understand that from understanding novelty, you'll be able to differentiate yourself and therefore do not create cognitive overload in your audience, and therefore standing out and overall raising above the crowds, which is, I'm sure, what you want to do.
Well, I love that. I mean, that's a master class already, Sam. We're only 15 minutes in, so
I appreciate it.
I enjoy talking to you because you're super intelligent, and you are able to explain these things in a way that are very understandable. So enjoy this conversation a lot.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
Yeah. Well, let's talk a little bit about how we might take and build some of these concepts like into what I call the soul of a custom
Yes.
GPT. Yeah, so this kind of driving document of how this custom GPT is going to like work for an agency or a client or a campaign? How do you bake these into that document and then into the
Yeah,
prompting?
great questions. So again, I love this question because it comes back to what we were saying. You are the source. You give the tool guidance, and the tool
Yep.
helps you basically get to that
Yep.
promised land. So I think that's very lovely. So as a foundational, basically document, what we want and what I think will be, I think what I think the future is, to be very honest, is that as technology is more and more readily available and less expensive to basically take advantage of, right? You can have a ChatGPT Pro plan for $20 and literally have a
Yeah.
multiple 5 6 figures business a month just using it, which is exceptional. And it's an incredible way of not only driving wealth but also economic productivity, which we want as a society. So that's a great thing. So don't get me wrong, I'm not against it. Quite the opposite. Just the poor use of it is something that triggers my
I
triggers
agree.
my
1,000%.
triggers my senses. Let's just put it this way. But the
Yes.
as a
Yeah.
fundamental basically document, what you want to, in my opinion, what we want to tell the machine is a few things. The first thing is obviously is the very basic, right? So the what, who, basically how, why, and so on. Those are fundamental to any business plans, especially fundamental business plans. So that will definitely be part of it. Stick to the basics. Make sure that the machine understand basically what you do, what you're trying to achieve. But then, and here's the difference. What I want you to spend time thinking of without ChatGPT beforehand is from your own observation or your team observation of what the marketplace is currently is. Two things. What are their needs, first and foremost, because a business and any relationship
Mhm.
actually is an exchange of value. So if you have a problem, let's say that you want to interact with my big marketing agency. You want to gain more customers. Fantastic. You come to us, we create basically the plan, and we have basically our own magic sauce basically there. But the bottom line is for that relationship to continue, you will need to get at least as much value as you pay me for it, or even more, which is what will keep the conversation and keep the relationship going. If at any point it
Yep.
is no longer the case, that relationship is now in jeopardy and could basically cause the end of such relationship. Now, because of that, you want to be very I want you to be your again. I want it to come from the own of your own source. So think about what the market needs. Your needs will most likely be the reason why you're in business in the first place, right? When you ask people why they do what they do, they say, "Well, I was looking the market going this way. I saw this was a problem, or maybe I worked a job prior to this. I was seeing all the kerfuffle basically within this industry. I wanted to solve it.
Yep.
Fantastic. Start with the need. Then I want you to basically tell me two other things. The first thing is obviously how you solve that needs from a very very simple, very blank basically positions.
Hmm.
But two, and even most importantly, coming back to everything that we're currently discussing, I want you to tell me in your own words, not ChatGPT, beautiful, M dash, it's not this, it's that. No, no. I want you to tell me in your own words why you are the absolute best in the world of solving such a problem. Because here's the thing.
I
Here's the
love
thing.
it.
As the market becomes more and more competitive, as there's going to be more business built, as technology is more accessible, average won't cut it. And I want everybody to understand
Yep.
this because this is something that is not only I think great for your own life, it's essential for your business. If you think right now that you can just have a steady boat and not basically involving in any way and things are going not too bad, I promise you that such things will kill you. All right, comfort is the enemy, my friend. And I want you to keep upon this edge that you have over the marketplace, keep working on it, refining it, making sure the market understand why that edge is so important and why you're the best at conveying such an edge. And afterwards, use the machine to be able to again accelerate the journey of going to such an outcome. So I would say start with the basics, basically companies profiles, then what you think the greatest needs is in the markets, what basically how you're solving it, and then why you're the absolute best at doing so. If you tell the machine that, it will have pretty much everything it needs to then afterwards elaborate a plan on how to perhaps take over the world, if that's such a plan is yours.
At least to take over the market, right?
There we go.
I love it, and I think you bring up some really good points about the human is the creative spark, and we have to bring that into the conversation with the software, with the computer, and and that that's our job. That's our job is not to go and vacation in Aruba on a bank account of $35 million and sit around for the rest of our life. Our job is to create things that solve problems that other people have. And I love that grounding that you provide on that. Now, is there? Do you have a training program for marketers, or is this just your little black box that you keep for yourself and just deliver to your
Yeah, good
clients, Sam?
question. No, we do have a course called Cracking the Sales course, and it's a lovely course that will explain all of what I'm just explaining to you. It's a do-it-yourself type of offer that we have on that, and
Yep.
we do have a done with you, which is a system, and we have a done for you, which is our agency. So we're
I
readily
love it.
basically available. The science, by the way, anyone that wants to access it, you can reach out to me directly, and I will be more than happy to provide it. Because the truth is, and here's what we know from marketing's perspective, and you can also get that insights from for your business, is everybody used to be afraid of giving too much things away. All right. How many times we heard basically
Right.
this whole business plan, oh, be careful because that's our secret sauce. Oh, be careful because this is our mot.
Yeah.
It doesn't work this way anymore. I'll tell you it's exactly the opposite. The people in which give most the marketplace takes more out of the marketplace. It's as simple as that. And
Yep.
therefore, all of
Right.
those educational piece of content you can do, the more you give, the more you basically what comes around goes around. What goes around comes around. Pardon me, the other way around. The so that's my favorite. That's my co-founder favorite saying, and he's got them right. And so you want to really utilize that. So the answer to your question is yes, we do have a course on it, and I would really advise anyone in which have either a science like ours or something much simpler. By the way, you don't need to be some type of scientific process to give the market value. Quite the opposite. Typically, the more simple it is,
Right.
the more it will perform long term. And we believe this. Trust me, even if what we do is not that simple. Really boiling down, really vulgarizing it to a place where people can just get it is really a skills. And I think we're going to see in the marketplace, Emmanuel, as again technology is getting less and less of a mod because everybody can access it. That's one of the
Yeah.
most important skills will be critical thinking, which it always was. But second, and even most importantly, it's going to be communications, because we're going to have now very complex topics such as quantum computing, and there's going to need people like you and
Yeah.
I, not the scientists that builds it, because they typically have a hard time with communicating properly.
Yeah.
You're going to need
Right.
people like you and I
Yeah.
to use those incredibly difficult terms, vulgarize it, and make sure that the masses can understand it. Because, again, at the end of the day, anyone that gives the market more value get value out of that marketplace. That's just the way it is, input, output. And so, yes, we do
Yeah.
have a course. It's $29 a month if you guys want to engage with it. More than happy to have as many of you get into it. But it's a great place to start. The book's in a great place to start for sure. If you're more of a visual learner, and which I am certainly. I do nothing but reading books. But so we have a books, we have a course on it, and no, we don't consider it. We're not gatekeepers at all. I want you to succeed, and if
Right.
I can help you succeed, that will be my pleasure.
Oh, Sam. Well, I really I enjoyed this conversation, and I could spend the rest of the day talking to you, but I know you've got a lot of other things to do. Uh, Go ahead and tell us how people would get in touch with you, and of course, all these things will be in the show notes
Absolutely.
also.
Well, I'm very active on LinkedIn. So Sam Pepin, I will be in a suit in a red background. Very hard to miss me. And you can basically seek all information about us at CoreCentrica, CoreCentrica.com. There's a way for you to get started with us right away, right from the website. Don't need any calls to do that. It's very simple. And then you obviously my email, sam@corecentrica.com. And those are the best ways certainly to get started with me, with us, and hopefully making the marketplace more dynamic, more meaningful, and therefore better for both consumers and service providers as soon as possible. So it was a pleasure being with you, Emmanuel. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Yeah, what a great opportunity for any of us in the marketing industry to tighten up the processes that we have and understanding the humans that we're talking to in a deeper, uh, more emphatic way. So, Sam, I appreciate it greatly. Let me close the show out and hang out for me for a second. We'll say goodbye properly.
Fantastic. Talk to you soon.
Okay, thank you so much. Well, really, on top of being foundational, really visionary in terms of identifying the learning styles and multiple learning styles, 11 or more, as we heard Sam talk about, and then staying focused on being less of a gatekeeper and more of a change management operator, and helping people with content and materials to learn about your products and services, to help them satisfy the needs that they have and the reason why they're shopping for your products or services. So I hope this episode brought you as much value as it did me. And I also hope that you take some time today to find some software tools that will get some time back for you. And that with that time, you'll use it to upskill, like learning about the neuroscience that we were talking about today, or that you'll spend it with your friends, your family, or get outside in nature and reconnect with yourself. It's Emanuel Rose, Marketing in the Age of AI.
Thanks for listening to Marketing in the Age of AI. Be sure to subscribe wherever you heard this podcast so you never miss a future episode. Your copy of Authentic Marketing in the Age of AI is available at Amazon.com or EmanuelRose.com. You can also connect with Emanuel on LinkedIn. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next time.